It's us. We're back.
Hey, mate.
Not to annoy you. We were talking in pre-production about what we wanted to talk about, and we really want to peel back more layers on the difference between work in the Netherlands and work in the US. But Tone just shared
Yeah,
with me that he started building a Japanese tea house, and we're both very passionate about gardening. So we're going to visit the work thing probably in another episode. I don't think we're going to get to it in this episode, but let's dive right into gardening.
that's fine. Let's do it. That's cool.
Tell me about the Japanese tea house. Tell me first of all where it's going.
Well, as you know, I have a rectangular garden, like square garden, and it's going to be diagonally opposite of the porch. So in the far right corner. So yeah, that's the place where it's going to be. And I have this little pile of dirt. It's not big, but it's for the effect. So the Japanese tea house is going to be standing on stilts, and it's going to be overarching a little mountain shaped, dome shaped pile of dirt. So it's really cool.
Are you,
So
real quick, are you going to build something to scale or is it going to be forced perspective?
well, both. It's going to be small, of course, because it's not a big garden. It's like 10 by 10 meters. So it's going to be we measured it out at 1 meter 80. So that would be 6 feet something, 6 feet by 2 meter, 2 meter 20 in depth. So the width is like 180 and the depth is about 220.
Nice.
And yeah, so it's usable as a relaxing space. So I want to put in a big mattress. So and it allows you to look over the garden, so to speak, like you're a little bit elevated. So it's going to be a pretty cool feature, and it is going to create a lot of depth in the garden and a little bit more privacy as well, because as you know, in the Netherlands, the houses are stacked up, so it's quite close to each other. That's true.
And
Yeah. So
you can look out your
yeah,
back window into your neighbor's backyard.
yes, you can. Yeah.
Which when you think about it, it's probably the same just about anywhere in the world. It is here in Florida, especially as density becomes the new driver and people are moving into the state and they want homes. They're building these two-story homes to give people more
Right.
living space, but they have zero
Yeah.
lot lines. So it's a bit of an exaggeration, but you could open up a second floor window and ask someone for a cup of sugar and they could reach out through their window and hand it to you. That's how close the houses are. And as a
Yeah.
result, of course, on the second floor, you can also see into other people's backyards, which is funny
Yeah.
because they spend an awful lot of money on these tall wooden fences for privacy.
That kind of strikes me a little bit odd because, it's not like you don't have any space in America. Like it's a huge country. You can build houses like you were used to and build build for
I
hundreds
can
and hundreds of years
I can
before it's filled
I
up.
can say it. I can
Like it's
say it so you understand in one word, money.
oh, money. Okay. Well,
Because
yeah.
if they allow zoning to where you can build four houses on an acre and there's zero lot lines, you have enough land for the easements. They get variations in zoning so that some of the roads are wider than others, but a variance by and large is designed to serve the developer and serve the municipality that collects taxes. Because if you've got one
Of
house per acre, you've got one tax paying household. But if you've got four or five, well,
course. Of course. Yeah, that's how it goes.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah,
So
I know.
back to the garden thing. And I would love for people to be able to learn by listening. It was really important when I had an idea for one thing that I wanted to do in my garden in Altamont. You and Leon
Yeah,
had an idea of how to just simply plus on what was already there. So
yeah,
instead of me fixing one thing, we wound up ripping apart a third of the garden and redoing it in the same day.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what would you say to people who want to build a garden but feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start?
Oh, well, think big and scale down if you have to. It's never too big. People, that's my experience. Most people tend to think, well, it's way too big. I can't do that because then it takes up all the space. Well, what do you do? What do you want to do in the space anyway? So you want to create a nice garden for yourself. So, if you just lay it out, and if you think it's too big or anything, just scale it down a little bit, and at the end you will find out that you regret doing it the original way. I remember that that I was creating this little pond over right in front of my back window between the shed and my house. Of course,
Right.
you know how the situation is.
Hmm.
I first had this little pond because Yvonne said, "No, I don't want that big pond," and I said, "Well, okay. Well, what do you think about that?" Well, okay, maybe. Okay. Well, what do you like? A water feature? Or do you like a cascade? Yeah, yeah, I like the cascade. Okay, so I fixed a little pond, and at the end, it was we looked at each other and went like, "It's pretty small, isn't it?" And then we ended up with the whole design that you also have in one of the leaders that we were sitting on this bridge,
Right. Yep.
and there was yeah, that was diagonally from one end of the garden to the other end of the garden.
Right.
And it was a big pond, but what are you going to do with the space anyway? We're gonna walk around in the garden all day and going like, oh wow, there's a lot of space. Yeah, what are you going to do with it? That's something that strikes me also in America. People have lawns and big spaces and wide open spaces, and I always went like, why? Why do you need space, all the space? I can relate. Of course, if you have children, you might want to have a lawn that they can play in. Okay, but does it need to be like a football field or something? No, I don't. I never got that. But
The
anyway,
the big thing that happens here is people, it's funny, people want houses with yards, but they don't want to do anything with them. And I was talking to a neighbor who, yeah, I looked at his backyard and it's very similar. And he has several different kind of fruit trees growing back there. He's got some vegetables, and that's really the thing to be doing. Allow we allow landscaping companies, we here in the States allow HOAs to dictate what we should grow. And now there's a pushback against things like St. Augustine, which is a manufactured grass, for the longest time was required in communities across the US, certainly in Florida,
right,
but it
right,
does
yeah,
absolutely nothing beneficial for the environment. It's not a wild grass. You can't find St. Augustine grass anywhere in nature. No animal wants to deal with it.
right.
And it's also a water hog. You have to keep watering this thing, whereas there's other plants that are native and don't need all that water. And I'm with you. There's a great deal that could be done if we took a little bit of
Mm,
time. And I think sometimes people are just intimidated by building a garden, and I think other
right.
times they don't know where to start, which is why I asked you. Your garden, I think any garden should have a water feature, and I think any garden with a water feature should be a peaceful space. Yours is
Right.
exceptionally so, and I don't think because of the Asian influence that it is the way it is. you have been very thoughtful and very careful. I've seen several different iterations of gardens with ponds in your backyard. And
Right.
each one's been really impressive. This one that you have
Yeah.
now, it just everything seems to lend itself to everything else. And I would say my bit of advice to people when you're building a garden is pay attention to the details, because that's all part of the story that you're telling with your garden. And a good place to shop for things you might want are thrift stores and garage sales,
Right.
because someone may be
Absolutely.
getting rid of or changing their garden and they don't need those pots.
Yeah.
They don't need that artwork.
Yes. Yeah. 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 That's true. And also, well, I happen to be a fan of the Eastern way of gardening because it's so relaxful to be in an environment like that. I don't know what it is. I don't believe
Right.
in reincarnation, so I don't have the thoughts. Well, I must have been in a Japanese person or something. It's not like that at all. It's something that the Japanese or the Eastern cultures have figured out way before we did. Is that if you create spaces in certain ways, it creates a really nice haven for
Mhm.
feeling well. And
Yep.
that's what
Energy.
the master, and it's not, and you can interpret it in a lot of different ways, and also in America, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have really nice gardens that are inspired to the Eastern or Japanese, or if you will, way of thinking, because it creates a really nice, calm, soothing environment. And it doesn't have to be like Japanese, but you can use the philosophy of the Eastern people, how they create their gardens. Because if I'm sure if a Japanese person walks into my garden, he goes like, "Oh, nice, yeah, you will like it," and he goes like, "Yeah, really nice, yeah." But he wouldn't go like, "Oh my God, it's like I'm in Japan." Not at all, because
But
it
it
has
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't have to
it's
be
more
that way.
eclectic as well. It's
Right.
more eclectic
Oh,
as well.
well, it is. It's
Yeah.
because it's not, you don't have things that just represent Japan.
No, no, but it's
And
like you have to create an atmosphere that makes you feel good. That's all about it. And these people know how to do it for some
yeah,
strange reason.
you know, many of the gardens that I've built and
Yeah,
designed are usually either, they're usually some kind of Greco-Roman. And my
yeah,
big thing is creating pathways
yeah,
where they end with a bench and you're surrounded by shrubs and you can sit and you can meditate and you can draw on the energy of the plants around you. I built once for a friend who had a massive backyard garden that looked like a nature park with all sorts of plants and trees. The entrance was a trellis that had passion flower growing over it, and there was a big clearing in the center because she was a witch. She's pagan, and she wanted to be able to have people over. And as that garden came into its own, it kind of took care of itself. And that's a thing that people can think about when you build gardens.
yeah,
It's not a great deal of work and maintenance if you put plants in place that take care of themselves. But
right.
something that really something that really meant a lot to me was when she was going to sell the house, she said the selling point was the garden, which I thought was a great
There
thing
you
to
go.
hear.
Right. Yeah.
I
And also the thing is also, and it's also very interesting to me because there are a lot of people who say, well, gardening is not my thing. And but it was the same with me when I was younger. When I was in my 20s, and somebody would say to me, "Yeah, you have to, do gardening." You go, "Are you crazy? What do you think?" I don't have time for that. I don't like it. I don't want to. I don't want to do it. It's a lot of work. But what if the work soothes you and makes you feel good?
Yes.
And of course, I understand there are absolutely people who don't like gardening, but there are also a lot of people who like it but they don't know that they like it. And I was one of them. I uh, I I came across gardening because for some strange reason, all of a sudden it appeared to me, it appealed to me, and I started doing it, and it felt really nice. And also, when I was over at your place in Altamonte Springs, it didn't really, it was not my style at all. It was
Right,
your style,
right.
but because of your enthusiasm, I was also triggered into going into your mindset and trying to help you create
Hmm.
together with you to make this thing even more beautiful than it was. Because you had this little Parthenon kind of
Right.
little building that you create, like this ruin, and it was like a miniature, but you really hit the atmosphere in this garden. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And it also inspired me as well. Although it wasn't my style at all, but I still got drawn into it. It's really fun, and it's an enrichment for your life. If you get into gardening, you will feel more relaxed and more in tune with nature and with yourself.
I, th-
I'm convinced.
excuse me. I think it's important for people to recognize it's not difficult to build a garden that becomes its own space, that becomes an outdoor room for your house. And for
Yes.
most people, your home is the place where you go to plug in, to recharge your batteries, to
Oh yeah.
sort of get your mindset right for whatever's coming next. And a garden
Yeah.
helps with that because a garden is a big collector and generator
Yeah.
of energy. Oh, and also of the air we breathe.
Oh yeah. Zeker. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you have a great place, you don't need holidays. Of course, you
It's
do
true.
sometimes, but you feel like you're on a holiday, especially in the summertime in the Netherlands. When I walk out in my garden, I see this great tranquil environment and all the green and the bonsais that I've been doing lately. Makes you feel great. It does.
I I like looking at how things are done and figuring out if there's a way I can co-opt that and use it in my garden or in a space I'm creating. And I have sometimes encouraged others who want to build gardens to just look through magazines, look online, or even better, drive around
Exactly.
and look at what
Yeah.
people have done.
Yeah.
Look when you visit a hotel or resort and see what they've done with their landscaping, see what they've done with their water
Mhm.
features. You don't have to
Oh
have
yeah.
the budget or the property to do what they do to still achieve some part of that.
Yeah. And I'm sure about that as well. The Japanese and the Chinese culture are great learners for finding balance in your design. And you can find beauty in the most simple things. As you say, you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a beautiful environment for yourself. That's true.
True.
You
I brought
remember
I
that
brought
brought
the
some. Do you
what's that?
remember that? Do you remember that one time that you came back to the Netherlands that I built me my spa?
Yes.
That moment that you saw that thing, that was priceless to me. You built me a beep spa. What the? That was so funny.
That was fun. I got to and
Yeah.
that's a thing. I've had my hands on pretty much just about every single garden that you've built. I've had something to
Yeah.
do with some part of that, whether it was digging out dirt or moving pavers or helping to cement the liner in place
Right.
for your Japanese bathhouse. And again, it's a matter of taking a space that you have and envisioning what it has the potential to become. And every single one of the gardens that you have done all
Mm.
fit in that space.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Although I must say, I regret that I tore down the old natural shaped pond with the bridge and everything.
Yes,
But I did
yes,
it for practical reasons. So in that regard, it's okay. But I still miss that. That was really, really, really nice.
it was.
And that was, yeah, that
It was
was one
big
of
and
the incidents.
beautiful.
Yeah, and it took a lot of space for my garden, but I never missed any space.
Right.
I never did. You need space. Space is something that you have. It's not something that you need to walk around in. You have to
Correct.
enjoy the space and see what you can do with it to make you feel happy.
And I
And
think just something just occurred to me. Um,
yeah,
I don't know if you're familiar with the expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Have you ever heard that expression?
I'm kind of, yeah,
I
in a
think
different variant.
I think for people out there listening and watching, if you're
Yeah.
if you're leaning heavily towards creating a garden, but you're looking at your space and you can't really think about what you want to do, I would highly recommend you grab a pencil and do some sketches, but then start in a small space and
Yeah,
flesh that one space out. Whether it's something as simple as leveling, putting pavers, and then an ornamental pot with a plant coming out of it, or maybe a couple of statues or a sculpture or something you hang on the wall or the fence, and then
right.
let the
Right.
space direct you on how to build and how to design. And
Yeah,
in that regard, you do it sort of one space at a time, and eventually you're filling out this space.
that's true. Yeah. And you also, and also, well, then interconnect all the things that you built already, because then it becomes a whole integral thing, so to speak.
Yeah, your
But
your
I
current
still,
your current garden, everything fits together, but you didn't
yeah,
build everything at once.
I know, but I had a rough plan of what I wanted to do with it. So, and that's what I meant by thinking big. You don't have to start everything all at once, of course,
Correct.
but you have to keep in mind what's the bigger picture. That's with gardening. It's a great, and if you get into it, you start liking it. It doesn't feel like a burden anymore. It's like you want to get home as fast as possible to work on your garden.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I've
So,
told people
yeah,
before that
yeah,
gardening is my opportunity to commune with cosmic energy, with whatever anyone's interpretation of God or anything like that is. It is a happy place for me. It's a happy
yeah,
space, moving
yeah,
pavers, digging up dirt, holding root balls,
right,
and
right,
understanding that I'm
yeah,
I'm I'm creating a space where nature is going to take over.
yeah. And also a lot of thing, something that people tend to say to me or to you maybe as well, for that matter, is like, yeah, well, it's really nice what you made here, but I wouldn't want to do that. Well, why wouldn't you? If you like it, it's too much hassle. Well, why? Don't you like it? Yeah, I do like it. So why don't you build it for yourself then? You have it as well. And also this, and I was thinking about it just a moment ago, and that culture is all over the Western world, the civilized world, is that people want to have tidy spaces, and they go like the white picket fence and the lawn, and
Right,
like the proverbial garden spaces. Like,
right.
well, you gotta have that. Well, why should you? You can have something else if you want to. That's it, as far as I'm concerned.
Final final tips, tricks, or suggestions for someone out there who wants to build a garden and they need that little extra bit of encouragement that only Tony Baloney can give them.
Wow. Okay. Well, I already said so much. Maybe you should listen the whole episode back once more, and then you can hear everything that we said up until now, and that's about it. That's what you want to do.
I'll
Just
I'll
think
add
big.
I'll add one
Think big.
thing, and we've already both said the same thing repeatedly.
Yeah.
Even if there's 1% of you that wants to build a garden or something, just try it, experiment with the spaces
Yeah.
and play around with it. You know, a trick real quick before we go, a trick that a lot of gardeners and architectural garden designers do is they'll get plants that are still in the pots, the plastic pots from the nursery, and they'll move things around before they put them in the ground. And they'll put
Mhm.
the sculpture or the statue or the wall decor. They'll move all this around to get an idea of what it's going to look like. So for you,
Mhm.
do the same thing. Maybe you have a piece of statuary, a column, a sculpture, something that you
Okay.
think, boy, I'd like to have this in a garden.
Right.
You can put it in a garden. It can be in your backyard. It can be in a corner of the yard. It can be in a side space, and then
Yeah.
you make it a centerpiece and you build around it. But the
Right.
only thing you have to do is stop talking about it and start doing it.
Yeah. I got a great slogan, by the way. Think big, start small.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
That's
All
it.
right.
I'm gonna, yeah. Well, I'm gonna send you some pictures as well. What
Yes,
I did
please.
lately.
Yeah,
Maybe we
folks,
can.
watch for that because we'll post them. We'll post them on our page on our website, and
Yeah.
they'll be included in the closing image leader for this particular episode. So we'll see you on the
Cool.
next one. We're not sure what that's going to be as far as the topic, but until then, garden, if you do anything garden wise, please post photos on our page. We want to see it. And as Tone would say,
That's Tone always, the Guru Tone. Like and subscribe if you like what I see, what you see.
that's right. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Happy gardening.
Happy gardening. Bye bye. Thank you.